So after hearing your song by Imagine Dragons, Katie, how do you feel now? Is your day better?
I'm so much better.
Yeah, awesome. When you said Imagine Dragons, I was like, that's going to be like the Wiggles or the Doodle Bops that my kids used to watch. You know what I'm saying? It just sounds like a kids group, but it's that's just the boomer coming out of me, right? The old man coming out going, I love that.
You'd kind of think that they might not be safe for kids to go see in concert, but the concert that we saw, they were great. So my 6-year-old, I thought, I looked it up to see, my husband was really upset since he didn't get to go to the concert. I looked it up to see how close they were going to be, and they were in Atlanta on a school night. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. And then, so I've been watching just to see if they get close. I'll take my son and my husband, or let them go together, and I'll just stay home.
So they probably got a lot more good songs, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now I could see me in the gym, right, on my little bicycle, kind of getting into that. So that was good.
But
I like that.
I'm afraid they're going to be the Nickelback of this generation, as Nickelback was to us in like the early 2000s. You get made fun of for Imagine Dragons later, but who cares? The music's good.
Yeah, music's good. My all-time favorite is Elton John. I don't know what y'all think about Elton. I love Elton. Oh my gosh. I used to work in Buckhead, in Atlanta, and way back in the day, and he used to be in the Kroger. He'd go get lunch at Kroger in the deli and stuff. And so I go to Kroger Deli every day because everyone's like, Elton goes there like all the time. He never went there when I was there. He was probably touring or something, but I just love Elton. So great. Good. All right. I did mention this the other day, so I want to talk to this about y'all. I kind of view this class with investments as a class where I gotta get to share some wisdom that I've gained through the years and to impart it to you guys. So we talk about all kinds of investments. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about bonds. We're going to talk about stocks. We're going to talk about all different kind of things. But the one of the biggest investments that you're going to make in your life is an investment in your significant other, we'll say, right? An investment in, why is my thing not working? Why is my drawing thing not working? Anyway, why is that not working? Hold on, that's driving me nuts. Come here, little thing. Hold on. Anyway, my pen's not working. Why's my pen not working? Dang it. All right, no worry. We'll just talk about it. I don't have to draw. One of the most significant things that you're going to invest in is your significant other. And when we were talking yesterday or Tuesday about, debt and constructive debt and all of that kind of thing, y'all, when you first are attracted to somebody, you're normally attracted to what? What normally attracts you to somebody? It's okay. You can be appearance, right? So you're attracted to appearance initially. It's that initial appearance, right? So what are some things that come after appearance, after you kind of get to know them and all that, right? So they can be just hot as heck, but be a creep, right? They can be a jerk or whatever. So you kind of look at, so what are some other things that you kind of look at in somebody who you want to be your significant other?
Their morals, values.
Yeah, morals, values. You want to kind of make sure that you have, Juan, personality, the knowledge that they have, sense of humor, things of that nature. And one thing, guys, that's going to be really important for those of you who don't have a long-term committed relationship with somebody, and I tell my daughter this, I tell my son this, I said, I'm going to tell you what's going to be a very good judge. Look at the heart. Okay, I like that as well. Look at the heart. But there are things that will show kind of the character of a person. And one of the things that you can look at is what? If we're talking about investments, what should we look at? Are you looking at their bank account? Are you looking at their, not necessarily, are you looking at how flashy they are? Are you looking at the car that they're driving? Are you looking at the clothes that they're wearing? That's all good stuff too, right? Because you kind of want somebody who's kind of got it together, so to speak. But I'm telling you, one of the most important things that you can look for in a spouse, especially if you're getting to a point where you're considering, hey, marriage, right? I'm going to take now, and I want to hear your feedback on this. Before you marry somebody or get into a long-term relationship with, you better find out how much debt they have. And you better find out how they are servicing their debt. How is the best way to figure out how someone is servicing their debt?
And you flat out ask them.
You flat out ask them, but listen, Shannon, did you say that? Yeah, you flat out ask them, but it's one of those things, trust, but verify. They don't trust anybody. Ed, you're exactly right. A credit check maybe, or hey, at least know what their FICO score is. If you're talking about getting into a relationship that's going to last 30, 40, 50 years or beyond, you better know a little bit about that person's finances before you get married. Now, I'm not saying that they got to have great wealth. I can remember a friend of mine one time told me you can marry more money in 30 minutes than you can make in a lifetime. And that's why Beth married me. Is that not right, honey? She said that was the reason we were scratching. I do remember that. She said that's the reason. Okay, Beth, that's enough. That's enough, honey. She said she can remember us. Yeah, she can remember us in Atlanta scratching change out of the car in order to buy something from McDonald's. That is actually true. So that was before we married, and she's still married. Yeah, she's still married. So yeah, you can marry more money in 30 minutes than you make in a lifetime. But at some point, you kind of want to make sure that they've got a good reputation, because what you'll find out, I've always heard this, right? Look at how somebody treats their parents, right? If you're marrying a man, how does he treat his mama? If you are marrying a woman, how she get along with her dad? You know, a lot of times that's going to tell you what your type of relationship. I know it's a parental thing going, down to a relationship thing, and it's different, truly. But you want to make sure that these are good people. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that if they have an obligation to their creditor, are they standing up to their obligation of the debt that they've got? So number one, I would much rather marry somebody or be in a relationship with somebody who has a paid off car, rather than they're going out and every year they're buying the most expensive thing and putting it on debt and blah, 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 blah. That's not the person that I personally am attracted to. And I'm telling you, you're going to make your life so much easier throughout the years if you can get with somebody who has good credit, who has no blemishes. Not to say you don't have, people haven't had blemishes. Lord knows I've had blemishes through the years. Oh, no doubt about it. But it's in this world, in the world that you guys are living in, it's very, 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 very important. So Juwan says character references. Check out the LinkedIn, mutual friends on Facebook, Instagram, mutual followers, etc. Yeah, they're more money than brains. Yeah. So I'm interested on your reaction to me saying, hey, before you marry somebody, you need to know what their credit score is. You need to know what their FICO score is. You need to kind of know what their whole credit situation is. Does anybody disagree with me at all? I'd love to hear it. Now, how many of you would do it? That's the question. Oh, I'm just in love. Oh, we're just so good. Oh, we're just this. And then the next thing you know, you're in a long-term relationship and you're miserable. Oh, someone's got their hand up. Who's that? Oh, yeah. Go ahead. The Grand Merlinian.
It's Ken here.
Ken, hey, my friend Ken, y'all. Yeah, Ken.
I've been married twice. I'm a widower and I've remarried. And what you're talking about was exactly what was done on the second marriage. We disclosed our credit reports. We finances, what our debts are, and all that. So it was eyes wide open going in. Now, in the first one, we didn't do it. We were young. We didn't have any money anyway, and so we didn't pay much attention. But the old was a lot smarter than the younger me, and that's what my comment is these things. Because at the end of the day, after a couple of years, whatever, the honeymoon's over, you guys got to work on life. And so this is important stuff.
And Ken, knowing this going into these type of relationships makes things much smoother, right?
Yes.
And what I would recommend to all of you is you may be sitting here today going, hey, wait a minute, Bobby, my credit report and my, debt is in a mess. Okay, that's fine, right? That's fine. What do you do about it from this point forward? So a lot of you, perhaps in this class or watching this video online, need to go, okay, what should I do in order to get my financial house in order so that I am a good catch for that potential bait that you have in the future? Because you don't want to be a weight on them either. Anyone else that's got a reaction to this? I love speaking about this. This is so important. Now, Shannon, we saw her husband come in the other day. I mean, she's already hooked. It don't matter what her credit report is now. She's like, here I am. I'm already in.
Oh no, we learned the hard way
Yeah.
about let's do that background investigation like Jawan was saying.
Mhm.
And that man has had a crash course and we don't play that. Also, we have an ex-wife. So yeah, really check folks out and weigh that out.
Yeah. It's just good sound advice, y'all. So you're making one of the largest investments that most of you will make is your significant other. You will agree with that. So if we're in an investments class, we've got to talk about the things that you've got to invest in. I remember I had a pastor one time and he joked about this, y'all, but it was really good. And Beth, I always tell Beth this. Beth, you remember Kenneth? He was a pastor and he said this. He goes, listen, Bobby, when you're checking out a mate, make sure that she's got good teeth, good back, and good feet. And he joked about it. But the more I thought about it, I go, Beth's got a good back. Well, you do, Beth. I'm just bragging on you a little bit. She's got great teeth and she's got great feet. She got all three of them. She marked out every box that I got that I had. So, but he didn't even think at that time, hey, you better check out that if they've got a car payment, that they're making their car payment, if they're, are they, and here's the great thing that I love about Beth, y'all. Here's the great thing I love about Beth. Beth is a frugal shopper. When Beth, I told her this Christmas, what did I say, Beth? I said, Beth, I don't want to go over budget on Christmas. And she said, oh yeah. I said, you need to run everything by me for Christmas. I got 5 kids, y'all. So I'm like, it can get out of hand really quick. And she says, you let me handle it. Don't you worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I let her handle it. And I did let you handle it. I allowed you, woman, to handle it. Y'all like Beth in the background. So I allowed Beth, winky, to handle it. But I did. And I trust her because I know that Beth doesn't go out and buy those things for our family unless she has done research, especially if it's a major purchase. I mean, yeah, and she would never make a major purchase without speaking to me. But if she's going to spend $100 or $200, I know that based on Beth's character, that she has done comparison shopping. She bought a bag this week that was normally what, $70 or so. Yeah, she bought a little $70 or $80 bag. She got it for $1. She was so proud of this little bag that she carried around that we're going to take to the beach with us. So she got it for $1 because she used these coupons and these things back and all of that. I just love it. So it's great when you have a spouse that, can you imagine if you have a home equity line of credit on your house and the next thing that y'all can draw on that at any time? Can you imagine your spouse or significant other going out and spending $20,000 or $30,000 of that against your house without you knowing about it? And that happens, y'all. That happens. Can you imagine if they've got a gambling addiction and they're out gambling, the family's money, doing things like that? And so one of the largest investments that each of you will have is in your significant other, your partner in life, whether it's short-term or long-term. It's going to be very, very, very important that you do some investigation. Don't just jump into it. Know how they are with money. Money is so important. Know how they are with their credit cards. Are they always putting things on the credit cards? They're making those payments. And before you definitely get married, it's just like I joke with Beth now. Neither of us had anything when we got married. And, we didn't do a prenuptial. But if you've got significant level of assets, I believe a prenuptial agreement is fine. I joke with Beth now that we're going to do a postnuptial, and she just says, whatever. She rolls her head. Ken says one rule is if it costs $600 or more, we consult with each other. It was $300, but inflation and affluence increase. That is correct. As you get more money. All right, questions or comments on this? This is a great discussion. Nick, you're sitting back. Nick, what do you think, Nick?
Well, this has never really been a shy thing for me to talk about. I always kind of talk about money with girlfriends. One, just because my family has a good amount and they act a very different way than I do. They're kind of pompous. So I usually ask the girlfriend, like, if she's been to cotillion and things, because when we go meet my family, she will have to act like that to their expectations. And so usually that kind of brings that about. But I don't think it would necessarily change my mind, but it would be a conversation to have for sure. But I'm also not married, so maybe we're going about it the wrong way right now currently.
Well, Nick, here's the problem. You told everybody that your family's got money, so you become just more attractive to the class as a whole.
I'm looking at all the pictures. I'm pretty sure, is everybody in here right now like married? I think that there's like 11 of us in here and they're all married. I think I'm the only single person here. So
Oh, look, I mean, now you really got people chasing you, Nick. So just, if you give your phone number or something, man, you're going to have thousands of people will watch this online, dude. You'll have people beating your door down now that everybody knows you got a little money in your pocket.
good thing I erased my last name.
There you go. Good thing you did that. You won't be chased. That's good. All right. That's great, Nick. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else got something to share on this at all?
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
conversation I had with some of my younger investors.
Yeah.
Actually, one of them was in the office yesterday, and he knows this discussion is going to be like, okay, this is where I am now. And he's like, Katie, I'm not dating anybody yet because I'm focusing on myself. And I'm like, that's great. That's good. And I have another young guy, and he's getting close to marriage, and he actually brought his girlfriend in, and she's like, I just want a ring. And I said, well, I think he wants you to have more than a ring. He wants you to set up your own retirement so you're not depending on him. And he also said I need her to set up contributions to it. So he wanted to make sure she was doing her stuff, whether they stay together or not. But these guys and the girls, they know, like, we want to make sure that if I'm on board and I'm helping y'all, this is what's priority, and it's going to make things a whole lot easier. And, you end up it gets nasty when y'all separate, and you worked for what? And I've told that to a few people that have been more prospective clients, like, hey, look, we need to talk about finances. And if you're going into getting married, make sure that you've talked about their finances. And for some people that have been prospective clients, they no longer are, because they don't want to have that conversation. And they know that's a conversation I'm going to push. But if you can't have that conversation with someone you're about to marry, then I question, do I even want you as a client? And I don't. And they kind of take their name off my board for me. But that just goes to show that that's serious to me. My husband and I, we've been married for 10 years. And I remember somebody had pulled his credit for something when I was 19. And they were like, you need to marry him. His credit's great. And I was like, I am not marrying anybody anytime soon. And that stuck with me, though, was at our young age, he was already doing pretty good. And he gets mad when my credit score gets higher than his, and I'm okay with that. So
Yeah, that's great. Hey, and Katie, I bet you've seen the effects of people that have come in after a divorce too, right?
oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, tell us. I mean, don't disclose anything about specific clients, but I mean,
No.
tell us some of the horror stories. I want everybody to know this is an investment in your significant other. If you so desire to have a significant other, you got to be wise in making this choice.
My biggest horror story to date, I'm 3 years in. They came in together. She had not told me, it just kind of, they came in as if they were together. They're still legally married. He starts kind of talking over her, and I said, hold up a second, because it's only her IRAs that I have. He is not my client. She is my client. And I'm very clear about that. I don't care if I offend you or upset you. This is not your money. This is hers. So I look at her. I said, you and I are having this conversation until you allow me to bring him in. Yeah, go ahead, bring him in. I said, on everything. Yes, on everything. Okay. We start talking through, and he's like, well, what if she pulls this money out? What if she does this? I said, why are you asking me about her pulling money out of her retirement account? She's in her late 30s. Why are you asking me about this? Where are your retirement accounts? What's going on here? And I just said point blank, what are y'all not telling me? And he says, oh, we're getting a divorce and she's going to need to take care of her own self. She doesn't have anything for a house. So I know that she can take money out of her IRA. And as a first-time home buyer, she's not going to be penalized on that. And I said, did y'all not buy a house together? Well, yeah, but it'll be the first time she's buying a house. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't appreciate you coming in here and running her accounts as if y'all are still married when you have an ulterior motive. This conversation is over and I will be speaking with her only from here on out. I was
Good for
so
you.
livid because he put her in a bad situation, put me in a bad situation. And now she's run off with she has no money to afford anything. And he's trying to take care of his own retirement accounts for him because he's breadwinner. Sorry, I'm pissed off because you don't treat people like that. But she didn't know better because we don't teach this stuff.
Yeah,
Where
I
we
mean, where do you hear this stuff? You don't hear this that, hey, you got to kind of take care of yourself. That's why I want you guys to take care of yourself going into the relationships. No, they don't talk about this garbage in high school. They just go, oh, look how hot they are, or how cool they are, or how suave they are, and or how much money they have. Well, big deal. What is their character? You don't want to be with somebody that's going to stab you in the back as long as you're not their little play toy or whatever it is again, or they find someone else. These things happen all the time, y'all. And you need to hear some of these horror stories when you're making an investment in your significant other. Now, Shannon brings up a really, really good point here. Now, let's talk about this. This ought to be a little controversial. Shannon says separate accounts. Okay, let's talk about separate accounts. Who feels strongly that you should have separate accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, retirement accounts? Well, retirement accounts are going to be, separate unless they're, whatever. Shannon, can we set him up with my husband's ex? Sounds like a match made. I don't believe. So tell me about the separate account, Shannon, and why you brought that up.
Oh, I feel very strongly everybody should have separate accounts, separate. Just like Katie said, you should CYA, for lack of a better term, in case something happens. Because sure, let's say that everybody wants to get married in the, hearts, stars, and horseshoes, whatever. But you need to know that sometimes it's not going to work out. Statistically, it's not. Are you willing to lose half of your income or more? And in this case, if you have separate accounts, nobody's touching your money, or it's harder to touch your money. And a lot of this is learned the hard way. So everything in my household, everything is separate. Nobody is a joint. Nobody is listed as such and such, but everything is separate. And that is to protect me first. And then my husband, secondly.
Now,
To me, this wouldn't happen.
Now, is he, I guess with having the ex-wife coming before, he's probably perfectly fine with this, correct? Okay, good. All right, Ken. Yeah, Ken.
Yeah, here's from the other side, the old side of this.
Mhm.
I respectfully disagree on partially. Yes, and this is from the second marriage. At the first marriage we had joint everything and it worked fine, but we must have been a statistical anomaly because we went till death do you part. But we have a joint family account. That's for bills. That's for groceries and things like that. And then we have our own accounts. I agree. There's something because today I'm looking at the marriages and it just seems more like a contractual ad hoc a relationship instead of when you have the vows, it's till death do you part. So there's like, you have weaker glue for the marriage. So a little bit of both, I think, is prudent because that way we can watch and see where the bill's getting paid and all that. And each of you contribute, but you got your own account, and because we're each our own person, so like a hybrid is where what works pretty well. And other folks in my condition, second marriages, a lot of them have that too. Yeah. So
And that's what Katie brought up. She says combined and separate accounts, right? Like, so a combined account, like to pay the bills and everything. Now, let me, Juan has a question or a comment. Juan.
Yeah, excuse me. I was just going to speak a little bit from my perspective. So I've been with my husband for 5 years. And when we came into the relationship, I was making $25,000 a year living in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is not enough to really survive, let me tell you. But that being said, the way that we have navigated our finances, it was a journey of when the timing was right for various things. So for example, when it came time to entertain the conversation about being, in a long-term committed relationship, we sat down and we opened our books and said, all right, what do you make? How do you spend your money? How do you go about things? And for me, it was, I literally sit with a composition notebook. I write down my budget, write down all my bills and everything. And for him, it was, well, as long as the money's in my account, it's there to be spent. And it was like, let's not do that. So that being said, we were able to, navigate, help him see the value in understanding his finances. And then from there, being able to structure in a way that is conducive for both of us. And then when the time was right, after we got married, I don't think we combined finances until maybe 6 months to a year after we got married. Then for our situation, it made more sense for us to be able to combine finances. And because of doing that, we have, and I kind of just shared this article in,
Yeah, I see that.
It was a really great article that Wall Street Journal put out on how couples married, non-married, cohabitating, and kind of the wealth gap that exists between relationships. It has been a effective wealth building tool because our finances are combined. It forces us to have open and authentic conversations about spending habits, investing habits, goals, and how we're going about achieving those goals. And then just really ensuring that we're on the same page. So that way, money is one of the biggest reasons for divorce, with the, divorce rates being 50%. It has been, I don't know that we don't argue. I'm not an argumentative person. We don't do that. But it has allowed us to mitigate any kind of harsh conversations because we have a consistent, open communication about all of our financial things, as well as working with a financial planner, of course. But I definitely think being able to open that, conversation from when you are making the decision to get serious and be completely transparent. I came in with student loans. I came in with a little bit of, debt. I was actively working toward it and I paid off everything early on my own for the most part. But that transparency allows us to really be on the same page and then work towards our goals together. And again, we were talking about, Shannon and her household, things are separate, and that works for her because that's what's best for their relationship. That's what's best for their household structure. And for us, just having separate accounts didn't make sense. So it's really an individual based on what is important with your relationship and how you guys go about it.
And what Juwan brought up is so good. Can you imagine how easy it was for Juwan to speak with his future husband about this because of the demeanor that Juwan has just speaking with us about it? If you are at the point to where you are ready to meet your significant other's parents, you are definitely at the point where you need to sit down and say, listen, we're getting really serious. One of the things that we need to speak about is our finances, our credit, our debt, our thoughts about money. Because think about how many times in a relationship you'll think about, oh, I remember Beth. I blame her all the time, right? We got 5 kids. And I sit there and go, when one of them's out of control or screaming or something, tearing up, it's a wonder they'll be here shortly. Sometimes you'll probably hear them. They'll be crying and screaming, they're 6, 7, 8-year-old, 12 and 18. They all scream and cry. And most of the time it's me that's screaming and crying. But I'll say, you wanted kids. I remember we were in Dillard's. We were walking down hand in hand, and you go, oh, Bobby, I can't wait to have kids. I want to have like 4 or 5. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever you want, honey. And now we got 4 or 5. And I blame her. I said, you wanted 5. I wanted 2. I'm blaming her all the time. So we had those thoughts about and discussions, though, about children. And did we want children? Did we love children? Did we, what was our thoughts on having kids? And so that was a big topic of conversation with us. That same level of conversation and open communication, you guys need to be having about money from the very start, right? Now, maybe you're old school, right? And the guy, buys on the first meal. That's fine. Or maybe y'all go Dutch on the first, whatever. But these type of conversations need to come out about money. Now, how can you overcome it? Because it's not comfortable. But I was very comfortable listening to Juwan speak about his conversation just because in the way he presented it, right? He's very open. He's like, listen, we need to have this conversation. It's really important. So how can you overcome their obstacle? Because a lot of people, what if they've got bad credit? What if they've got $200,000 of student loans? They don't want to talk about that. So what can you do to encourage the conversation?
Bobby, I have a thought.
Hey, Ed.
So, and I agree with everything that's being said. And I'm in my early 60s, everyone. I've been married for almost 41 years. So we had a joint account at the beginning, and as things got better, I actually opened a separate account for my wife. And every month we put a certain amount of money for her to blow without discussing at all into that account. And it wasn't very much at the beginning, and it's still not that much in the scheme of things, but it's money that doesn't have to have a question attached to it. She can save it, she can spend it, she can do whatever she wants with it. So I want to throw that out there. I think a great way to approach this, because this is like the most delicate of delicate topics. I appreciate you guys saying, yeah, it's got to be done, but man, that's got to be even tougher than saying, I want you to come meet my parents. Like, I want to discuss our finances. So one thing I love to have younger people understand, and I'm sure the vast majority of you know it already, but it's compound interest and how long-term savings and compound interest can really work for you. And it is the beast of all beasts of wealth creation for people you guys age. You've got multiple compounding periods between your current age and age 55 if you're lucky, 65 if you're average, 70 if you're not, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a lot of compounding periods for that money to double and double and double and double again. And I think that if people in general have that long-term savings goal, like we're X age and we want to retire at Y age, there's got to be some effort put into it. And everyone, and I'm sure a lot of you have run into this already, everybody, well, they may or may not be thinking about retirement, but for those that are, they really think, well, I'll start next year, thinking, well, the few $100 or $1,000 I might save this year is irrelevant. And what I try to drill into people is, it's not the year you're waiting monetarily to contribute. It's the tail end 40, 45 years from now or whatever, where you have that one extra year of compounding where the market goes up an average of 9 or 10% a year. So if you have that one extra year on the tail end, you probably are going to end up 9 or 10% plus higher on the tail end. So one, that's not something that everyone typically understands. Two, it's not something that they generally discuss, but I do think that would be a very appropriate and smooth way to bring up these other issues. Because if partner A doesn't know about partner B's debt or spending habits or whatever, everyone's gonna find out the hard way, and the hard way is way more difficult than the easy way or the less difficult way. So I just want to throw that out as one tool, long-term growth, long-term planning, and that should be, I see Juwan shaking his head a lot there. It just should be on everyone's plate. And it typically is not on anybody's plate. So everyone wants to retire, but no one really wants to look at or plan for it. So that's my idea.
That's good points. Also, I worked with a gentleman, and this was back during the day. It tells you how dated it is, when every other Friday, the checks would be in the mail for our paychecks would come to our office. Well, occasionally the checks wouldn't be there on Friday, and we'd have to wait till Monday or Tuesday of the next week. And this guy would go into a sudden panic, and I thought, wow. I mean, and he had a significantly higher salary than I did at the time, and he was so panicked. But what he did, y'all, this was something. Can you imagine? You're married to he's married to his wife. He gets his paycheck in, and what he did was this: he would go and cash the paycheck, and then he would put money into a separate account that his wife did not know about, and then put the remainder, which was always the same, into their checking account, so that she didn't know how much money he was bringing in. If she were to look at their joint account, it would look like he always brought in, I'm just making up a number, $1,000, okay? But really, he was, only putting in 800 and keeping 200 separate for himself that she did not know about. When the tides turned and the federal government went to all direct deposit, he flipped out because he knew that his wife would see how much money he made, and he couldn't hide that from her. Any comments or questions about that? So if you've got separate accounts, how would you feel if your significant other was hiding accounts from you? Yeah, Juwan.
I would just say, well, for one, that would be really hard to do with me because, as someone already acknowledged, I am Inspector Gadget over here. But two, I think that, and this is not me trying to create an opportunity, but create a reasonable something, is that you do have the ability to dictate how much of your check you want to go into a certain account. So, and like as an automatic savings tool, because for some people, if they see it, they spend it. You can have 80% of your check go into your normal account and then delegate 20% to go into an external savings account. But if I did find out that there was some hidden thing somewhere, I would honestly just have an open and honest conversation of like, yo, what's going on? Like, we don't do this. And then depending on how that conversation goes, that determines my reaction from there.
Okay, good. I like what Jackie says. If you can't honestly talk about money, then you aren't ready for marriage. I agree with that totally. And Katie says, if it's hard to bring up when dating, maybe you're not dating the right person. Could be just me, but there are much harder conversations. Agree. And yes, Ken, this was common activity back in the day before there were direct deposits. Jackie says, I don't like this dishonesty. It isn't a good thing in any relationship. Women will tell women when they get married to get cash back every time they shop or whatever. Make sure that they have a nest egg that the husband isn't aware of, and that's not okay. And I agree that that's not okay too. Now, Katie encourages. Remember, Katie, you were talking about the run money in the event that you have to run. So how are those conversations handled? Do the people that have run money, are they letting the spouse know that they've got run money or that there's a separate account? How does that work in your opinion?
I don't do that here because, that was when I was in banking.
Okay.
So, they would have that. But so for instance, in our home, I have my account, he has his account, we have an operational account. After 10 years, we put more into the operational account than we previously did, and that's fine. We're both in our first marriage, and I do think in a way, because of how we view finances. When we go through rough patches, it's that keeps us together sometimes. Like sometimes when you're married, it's your kids that keep you together because anything and everything else is, I want to get out of this. Sometimes it's the money that keeps you together. I think that there's a reason there are these big, tough situations is because on a particular day, that might be the only thing keeping you together. But for those accounts, I agree. I don't like that. Get cash back and hide it. I don't like the, oh, don't tell my husband that I went shopping too heavy on Amazon. I think that's disgusting. One, like make your own money if you have to spend money like that. Yeah, I don't know. But the money that I have in my account is for, if I want to get Botox, I'm going to get Botox. I worked hard for it and that's what I want. And he's not going to question me on that. If I want to buy him, I bought him a really nice shotgun a few years ago. I didn't want him to know what I was saving that money for because I didn't want it to ruin the surprise. Now, for us, if that money reaches a certain level, you got too much that you're keeping separate, and we make each other aware of, hey, if I ask how much is in your account, hey, pull up this account, he pulls it up. If I say, hey, and he asked me the same thing, pull up the account, we know about that. So we know where each other's banking. It's within our trust. It's within everything else that all of our accounts are listed. And that's an estate planning thing too, because if something happens to me, my husband knows everywhere he has to go. And he's not going to be surprised by an account. He's not going to be missing an account for our children. But I agree. I think you should keep it separate, but be honest about it, And if you feel that you need to hide it, once again, if you feel you have to hide money from a spouse, especially larger amounts, why are you with that spouse?
Yeah, very good. Let me, Juwan says only leads to further trust issues because your spouse is demonstrating that they don't fully trust you, feel that they can't be open with you. Exactly. Let me ask this question. Now, we touched on it briefly, earlier. How do you deal with if both spouses make significantly different amounts of income? Is that an impediment to a relationship? If it is, how have maybe some of you overcome that in your relationships? Or if you're not in that situation, what are some of the issues that arise from one spouse making significantly different than the other? Yes, Juwan.
I know I've talked a lot, so I'm going to keep this super
No, it's good. We want you to share. Never feel that you're going long. Just want to. I love hearing your comments on this. It's good we're having this open dialogue and conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you. But so after I left my career, so I left the ballet world in 2020 during the pandemic, and I did not have another full-time job until June of 2022, and I was working 3 part-time jobs. Now, of course, that significantly decreased my income, and while my husband was still, doing the things and holding the fort down, the way that we went about that was understanding, of course, savings goals and being on the same page. But then we were able to take all of my income and put that aside into savings and really kind of practicing seeing how we can live on one income and even trying to live on less than one income to be able to execute savings goals and things like that. And with that, we were able to buy a house in May of 2022. So 2 years after kind of living like that and living frugally and, understanding that there's no shame. It's just a period of time that we have to have this adjustment, and then we can pivot from there once the situation changes. But that is kind of how we went about that situation, with having that open conversation, being on the same page financially. And even before I left my job, I told him, I left it in October. I told him back in April that I was thinking about this, and I gave myself 3 months to come up with a plan of what we're doing financially and how I'm going to not necessarily just put what I would consider a burden on him. So then that way, again, we can continue working towards our goals. And then June, literally a week after we got married, I was like, all right, so this is what I'm doing, and I'm not going back to work. And we were prepared to be able to make that pivot. So that's how we navigated the significant income difference.
So one of the things that I keep hearing Juwan say is we had a plan. We worked together. That's the way it should work, right? So rather than saying it's your money, my money, they kind of took the approach of, hey, this is our money. Let's work as a team. And it allowed him to stop that job during the pandemic and to go and do other things, which was really, really great. And he had the support of his spouse to do that, right? Which was really, really good. I love the, hey, it's we. Beth and I had counseling several years ago, and I can remember, I was on one side of the page on this major topic. She was on another side of the page, and we decided, hey, we got to go to counseling. We got to work this out. And the greatest thing that the counselor told us is this, and Juan, you'll like this. He said, it is you and Beth against the world. There is nothing that comes in between you two, not money, not finances, not kids, not jobs, not anything. It is you two against the world. So y'all kind of keep that in mind, right? It's you and your significant other against the world. So if a parent is trying to pull you guys apart or trying to do something, what do? Well, hey, if that's your significant other, you've got to say, Mom, Dad, sorry, you're not going to pull me away from this person. It is us. We have committed to each other, right? You got to figure out that there are people that cannot violate the boundaries of you and your significant other's relationship. Not parents, not children, not jobs, not bosses, not employees, not businesses, not money, not accounts, nothing separates you two. Ken, yes.
Oh, Jawan took almost all my thunder. And what you just said is it's in the marriage vows to forsake all others. That is so important.
Yeah.
There's another reason it's not been touched. It's when disaster happens. Now I've had I made significantly more money than my first wife. And so what did I do? Well, we put the money together, but I was the major contributor to the community chest. And just as it was my money was her money. That's how I approached it. But that's what you do. If you make more, maybe you pay the mortgage and then they pick up the utilities or the groceries or whatever. You divide tasks up. And I got that from an idea from one of the guys that where I worked, is that he was the second time around and they kept separate finances, but they said it didn't work. And so they had to make a joint account for the family. So it works, like it can work, but when your difference is, you have to focus on our money. And that's really point. Jawan took almost all my thunder. So yeah.
Yeah, he did really good. Hey, Katie, you had your hand up. Come back in.
I did. I was just kind of thinking, and my husband and I have talked, extensively of if something happens to him or something happens to me. He was 12 when his dad passed away unexpectedly. So that's why it's a more prevalent conversation for us, is because he's lived through the loss of a parent. And it's like, if would you remarry? And at this point, I don't think I would, but I'm not faced with that. So, we've talked both about, if you get into a marriage where one is making more, one is making less, I think that it's not fair to come in and say, well, you're going to contribute half and I'm going to contribute half. I think having those, like, if I'm going to contribute 25% of my pay, you need to contribute at least 25% of your pay, and making it work. But I've not crossed that bridge, so I don't necessarily know. And his mother never got remarried. She's been dating the same guy for 15 years and they live separately and it works for them. But I do think that it's important to set those lines up from the beginning and to be open about that. And on the flip side, I'm the breadwinner and I have been for 8 out of 10 years in my marriage. And there have been times where my husband will make comments about, well, as you get better and better in your career, I can slack off if I want to. And I'm like, no, you can't. I did not marry someone to slack off. And then I bring it right back to, what if something happens to me? Like, there may be insurance and stuff. And then I bring it to, you are working, and our boys we've got a 6-year and 19 months. All they know is daddy works. They don't know what dad makes. They don't know what mom makes. There have been comments where he's like, well, mom makes more money. I'm like, shut up. No. We both contribute to this house, and they don't know. And so what we have to do is show them the value of working and the value of talking with each other about it. And we also include them a little bit in like major financial conversation. You know, the tooth fairy came last night for the first time. So it's like, here's $5. We talked about it on the way to school. You pulled your own tooth. That's great. I bet the tooth fairy gave you more money for that. But we had the conversation, my husband and I did, even over something that small. What are we about to be paying for each tooth? Because we have to
Yeah.
be on the same page there. You know, we have to know if he pulls it, he gets $2 from here on out. If he doesn't, he gets $1. And we're all together, no matter what that is. But we have to value each other's income and work because they're working, not for what it is. And if we get uncomfortable by those comments, if you're going to be my sugar mama, we stop it. You know, it's no, we both contribute.
Great. Awesome. Good. Isabel has her hand up. Hey, Isabel.
Hi, good morning, or good afternoon for you guys. What if the wife doesn't work or the other spouse doesn't work? Like, everyone's saying like, you know, you put money in and she puts money in, or, you know, they both put 50-50, or he pays the mortgage and she pays the utilities. Like, I've been to, my husband and I have been together for a really long time, and he's been in the military for 23 years. So there's been times where I'm not working at all. And I don't have that fear of like, oh, I've got to put something into the bank account, or, you know, it's not, we don't necessarily work our finances like that. And everything is like just piled in. I don't really question him if he wants to spend some money. He doesn't question me when I want to spend money. But we both come to an agreement. We both talk about things, but there's got to be some couples out there where the wife doesn't work at all, or the other spouse doesn't work at all, and only one income is there. So what do you do with that?
So I can speak to that. So Beth and I were married. We were going to party like it's 1999, old Prince song. So we got married in 99. And in 2004, we began the adoption process of our daughter from Guatemala. So when my daughter was 9 months old, that was our, our kind of labor. She came to the United States. Beth traveled to Guatemala to get my daughter. And in 2005, Beth, ever since, has been a stay-at-home mom. So my daughter is 18 now. And make sure all my dates and years are right. My daughter's 18 now. And so we got an 18, 12, 8, and 6-year-old. So, we just did kind of like, Juwan's talking about, we lived on one income, which was my income. And we were like scared to death. I can remember saying, oh, wow, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? And amazingly, we did it and still continue doing it this day. Now, y'all know I joke with my wife all the time. So I joke with her and I say, look, you stayed at home for these, 18 years. Now it's my time. We'll joke like that. But it's never been an issue because we have joint accounts. It's our money. It's Beth's money. I realize that what she does here at the home is amazing. Like when I retired in 2021, I was surprised. I'm like, how do you take these 5 kids to 5 different events on the same day? I am busier now than when I worked a full-time job. So it's amazing how we just kind of made it work. But I've never been like, well, Beth, since I am the breadwinner, I'll make this decision. We are certainly partners in this marriage and in this raising of our children. Jackie says, I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 5 years. Then I got hired on part-time in September, full-time in January. He retired December 23rd. So everything is together because there's only one of us consistently working at a time. Good. And it works out really, really well, right? And Katie says, I think each couple has to establish and follow their own formula, establish the rules and follow them. Yeah. But the worst thing that somebody could do, I think, in a separate situation is to make the other spouse feel like they're inferior. Right? Well, if you would, contribute to the family finances, we'd be better, and all of that. So certainly. Anyone else got a comment on the one spouse working while the other one is working? Right? I never say that Beth doesn't work. Beth works hard in our household to keep these kids going while I'm off doing, whatever. So she definitely works. Any other comments?
Well,
on
that's
that?
the point.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is that what kind of person would we be if all we focused on was what money is the only thing of value? Both spouses bring much value to the table. If someone's not bringing the money part in, there are other things to do and to make it happen. It goes back to cleaving, be one. And then that problem's not an issue. And but it was the older generations. My mom never worked a day in her life until the youngest child was in high school, and then she got a part-time job just to get out of the house. But she was always there, and that was more valuable than any kind of money she could have brought in. And that's it. Don't discount your one's value because they're not bringing home a paycheck.
Absolutely. And people say you can't make it on one income. We did it with 5 kids. Amazing. So, and still saved and still invested and still did all the things, so it can work. So in conclusion, we spoke about investing in your significant other. Investing in your significant other, ladies and gentlemen, is an investment in yourself, right? Surround yourself with someone that enhances you, who makes you better. That's what it's all about. Okay. Great session. I'll see y'all Tuesday.